Have you ever been burdened by shame or guilt, like it is weighing on you heavy? Or found yourself blaming and judging other people? Well, these are some definite signs. Our topic today is why blame, guilt, shame, and judgment stop us from taking the right action. I think it actually stops us from taking action, period. My name is Suzanne Hart, and you have just joined Unstoppable Mindset. I am so excited that you are here. What do, we help you reset your thinking. We give you breakthrough strategies that help you shift your thoughts, your emotions, and your communication because I know that they impact your behavior and your habits. Our goal is to help you live life filled with passion and totally on purpose so you can break through any challenge, any form of adversity, and totally master yourself in the face of change. So, welcome. What I'd like to do is just give you, kind of how this works. And I see Mr. Lester Bailey. Hello, Lester. Long time. Welcome, welcome. So this is how it works. As you come on, please let us know who you are, what part of the world you're joining us from, and who you serve, and what you do while you're living. What has you filled with passion and living on purpose? The other thing I'd like you to do is to let us know what brought you out tonight. Is there a burning question you would like to have answered? Is there something you want us to address? Put it in the comment section. Also, bless a life. Share this live video, share this stream with someone in your life who you believe maybe needs to look at shame, guilt, judgment, and really begin to move their life forward. This is a person that's stuck and maybe they don't know why. So welcome. If you are here and you're listening to the replay, #replay, I am so excited you're here. And although it is the replay, I would like you to do the exact same thing. Put your name in the comment section. Let us know what part of the planet you're joining us from, who you're called to serve, and what you do while you're living. What has you filled with passion and totally on purpose? Also, what brought you out? What question you might have. And even though it's a replay, if you have a question while you're watching, put it in the comment section. I'll go through, and when I see it, I will actually take a moment and answer your question. Now, when you love what you hear, please do bless a life. Share it on a page, share it on your page, share it with a friend. And why do we do that? Because knowledge is power, but knowledge isn't power when we just listen and do nothing with it. Knowledge is power when we use it in an organized fashion. In other words, we implement it in a very clear way in our lives. But also when we get into communication and we talk and teach what we've just learned. I know that when I teach, things just seem to go deeper because I really have to deconstruct and think about what I'm saying. So we're going to invite you to do that with a friend. That's why we share. So bless a life, get in communication with a friend, and talk about what you're learning. Okay, so I am so excited about this topic. This is actually one of the topics that changed and transformed my life. Why? Because I was stuck in shame and guilt. And a little bit, or maybe a lot of judgment. Let's just be real. All right, so let's get this party going. As I said, my name is Suzanne Hart. Welcome to Unstoppable Mindset. And our topic today is why blame, guilt, shame, and judgment stop you from taking the right action. This is for you if you are someone who is kind of feeling like you're stuck and can't move and don't know why. This might be for you if you feel bogged down by an unresolved issue. You know that conversation that keeps running in your mind, that thing that keeps playing? This is for you. All right, so let's get into this topic. So first of all, let me see who's out there. I see Cindy. Welcome, Cindy. I see Lester. I see beautiful Taria Hodge. So welcome, welcome. And I know that many more people are going to join us as we get this live going. So I want to talk a little bit about this amazing topic. and why it was important to really begin to share it and have this conversation. So, in mindset mastery, in emotional mastery, one of the things I talk about is when you are challenged, one of the things that we have to do, one of our principles, is to sit in acceptance. In other words, to accept what's going on in the moment. However, in order to sit in acceptance, you have to do a few things. You have to give up shame, shaming yourself and shaming others. You have to give up blaming. You have to give up judgment. You have to give up guilt. You have to give up anger. You have to give up all these emotions. Now, let me talk about what I mean by giving it up. In other words, what I'm saying is that can't be the motivation of your actions. That can't be the decider of how you move forward. So you're required to sit with the emotion, process it, and do and choose an action that serves you. Now, when I say sit with the emotion, how many of you are like, oh no, I don't want to do that, right? So if you don't want to sit with the emotion, put, oh no, I just like to avoid it. I just like to keep it moving. I just go into busy, do something else, whatever it is. But that's what's required to actually move forward and take the action that will best serve you. So let's talk about why we don't sit with the emotion, why we avoid it, why we eat instead of feel it, why we get busy and find a lot of things to do, why we spend time blaming other people, why we sit in anger. All those things come up. We are highly frustrated. Some of you might find yourself like it's like you're trigger happy. Someone say the wrong thing to you and you're off and running, you're popping, right? These are all signs. But the question is, why is that how we become when something else is going on? So in order just give you a little bit of insight, I'm going to share one of my stories, and it's the one about, most people know that 16 years ago I found myself physically exhausted and financially upside down. But we're going to talk about the financially upside down part. And so I'm financially upside down to the tune of $50,000 to $100,000, lien on my house, in a marriage that's stressed by the financial situation. It is not a good thing. Now, what would happen is when I would go to my bank account and I would look at it and I would see the negative big number that was on my so-called line of credit, I would instantly be flooded with shame. I would instantly be flooded with all sorts of emotions. And as soon as I feel those emotions, the reason I was feeling those emotions is because I would play this story in my mind about who I was and why this situation had happened. I was embarrassed, but I was really ashamed. And I kept thinking, if anybody finds out, they're going to think I'm nuts. They're going to think I'm irresponsible. No one else has this situation. I had this on and on and on story running and playing in my mind. How many of you have ever had a story that's just running and playing in your mind? And the more you play it, the bigger it gets, the more embellished it gets, and it seems to take on a life of its own. If that's you, put yes, I have a story in the comment section, because that's what was happening. So what would happen is as I started to play the story, shame, guilt, judgment would rise, and what I would do is I'd close my bank account and avoid, and I'd get busy doing all sorts of different things. However, how it bled out in my life was I was very angry. I was full of judgment. I was full of blame. I blamed my ex. I blamed my job. I blamed people for not paying me enough money. I blamed the economy. I blamed all sorts of things. I was just in blaming mode. Now, why is that? Because when I'm pointing my finger at you or somebody else, I didn't have to look at me. That's really how it works. So why am I telling you this? Lester, you're welcome. Why am I telling you this? Because that's kind of how it works, is when we are in those emotions, shame, blame, judgment And blame is the way we deflect shame. It's the way we deflect taking responsibility. It's the way we deflect being accountable. And since I didn't want to look because I had this massive story running in my mind, I just avoided dealing, felt stuck, and was blaming, shaming, and judging the world. That's just basically how it is. However, that can only work for so long. And either it escalates or you choose change. What happened for Suzanne was the pain of sitting in that every single day got to a point where it was greater than my pride, greater than my need to be secret, greater than anything else going on in my life. So I had to make a decision. And my decision was to look. But this was the thing. In order to look, I had to give up the story. So this is where we're going to start talking today about how this all works. I had to give up the story, or I had to suspend the story long enough to just look. So why am I going through this? Because there's two key things that you want to understand when you're stuck in, it's like a shame, blame, judgment storm, right? When you're stuck in that vicious cycle, is that you got to stop the story. So how do you stop the story? Well, you kind of stop telling it to yourself, even if it is for a moment. So for me, it was realizing that the story wasn't serving me. Although I kind of did believe it, I had to stop telling it to myself because I was caught in this vicious cycle. Story, shame, blame, feeling bad. Story, shame, blame, feeling bad. So this is what I'm going to teach you is what I learned to do. So let's just separate story from what was happening. And I've said this on a live before. I'm going to say it again. What was happening was my bank account was empty. My bank account had a negative balance. That's what it was. I want you guys to get this. That's all it was. My bank account had a negative balance. What I had to look at was what I made it mean about me. That was really where I had to look. What did I make it mean about me? So if you've got something going on right now in your world, I'm going to ask you to begin to separate the two. And anyone who works with me, it's like separate the data or the facts. And the facts are real. It's not your opinion interpretation. It's the story. So the story was open bank account, negative balance. That's it. That's all it was. And I really mean that's all it was. So that's what I want you to get. The story I made up was what the negative balance meant about me. Now that wasn't truth. That was what I made up. So I had to begin to separate the two. So that is the piece, right? Very, very, someone says, oh, hello, Patricia, welcome. So I had to begin to separate the two. That was the first thing. When I began to separate the two, what was interesting was I could actually just look at the data. And the data was an empty bank account. So that's the first thing we have to do. So something's going on in your life. You got to separate what's happening, what's truth, from the story you make up. And the story is what you make up about yourself, what you make up about someone else, what you make up, all this sort of stuff. But this is the other thing that has to happen, is you also, remember I said, you got to separate the stuff, but then you got to go deal and look at the emotion, the feelings. But this was a challenge that I was having. And how many of you actually have this challenge? And if you have this challenge, put yes, I have this challenge in the comment section. So as I was looking, I was feeling all this stuff, but I didn't know what it was. Have you ever had all these emotions, but you didn't know what it was? Like the emotions that we all know very well is I'm angry, I'm pissed off. I'm angry, I'm pissed off. I knew that. But the question truly was, what was below the anger? What was below the pissed off? What was below there? I didn't have words for it. I didn't understand how to express it. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was stuck. So, what we're going to talk about today is the need for this thing called emotional literacy. This is putting language to emotions, but not only just putting language to emotions because we have them we have shame, blame, guilt, judgment. But what do we do? What are the behaviors that we exhibit when we are experiencing these emotions? That was the thing that was really helpful for me. What do we do? So I had to begin to look at what happens when I experience certain things. So I'm going to break a few things down for you. So emotional literacy is putting habits and behaviors, ways of being, our coping mechanisms to feelings. What does it look like when I'm experiencing this? So let's start with the big one, shame. When I'm in shame, when you're in shame, when anyone's in shame, more than likely, they have owned what's going on and they're saying things like, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. And it's I am. And when we get into I am, we are now talking about our identity. That's scary. So we're talking about our identity in the world. So I was walking around going, I am so stupid. I am not good enough. I was in full judgment and shame of myself. And so when we're in this place of I am, this is the other thing that you'll notice is you want to keep it a secret. You want no one to find out what's going on. Have you ever had a situation where you felt so bad, you had such shame around it that you wouldn't tell the world? You didn't want anybody to know. And just the thought of someone finding out almost made you sick, right? That's what we're talking about. When you're in that place, that's shame, right? You're thinking, and I love Brene Brown's explanation. She says it's when you are, I am bad, I am no good, I am stupid, I am. And it is the most debilitating thing because as soon as I am something, we are taking it on as our identity, who I am. So that's the first clue. So I was I aming all sorts of negative things and it became my identity. It became my identity to the point where I didn't even like the person I saw in the mirror. That's how bad it got. So that was the first thing. But let's talk about guilt. Guilt is this other feeling of when you feel bad about something you did, right? And notice I said when you feel bad about something you did, I did something bad, right? So I was feeling guilty also about keeping people at a distance. I was feeling guilty about how I was being with people. And so I knew that's not what I was committed to. So when we're in guilt, it's almost like we have a need to go fix something. We did something that we didn't like and we have a need to fix it. So when you feel guilty, the difference between shame and guilt is I am bad versus I did something bad, right? I am stupid versus I did something that was really stupid in the moment, but I know I'm smarter than that. That's the distinction. That's what I want you to begin to look at. But then we have all these other emotions. So let's talk about anger. Anger, I believe, is an emotion that we are freely allowed to express in our society. But I really believe that anger is a mask that keeps people at a distance and puts us dealing with stuff at a distance so that we actually don't have to deal with the deeper emotion. So there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of pushing away. And there was a lot of just, I was just angry at the world. But what it did was it also kept things at bay and it prevented me from dealing with the shame, the guilt, the judgment. Okay? But then there was this other emotion, which was anxiety, worry, and fear. Now, this is the interesting thing. What kept me from looking at the bank account was also anxiety, worry, and fear. I kept running into the future and making up these catastrophic things that were going to happen because of my situation. They were massive. I was going to be homeless. I was going to be houseless. My reputation was going to be totally damaged. I was running a drop-in center for women with mental health and women who were living on the street. I saw myself as becoming a client. So I was running into the future and writing an even bigger story. That's what worry and anxiety is. It's when you're not in the present, but you're creating a future that has not happened. And the bigger you create, the more you get sucked into it. And I'm telling you this so you can see the cues, so you can say, okay, this is what the emotion is. So when I know when I'm running into the future, I'm like, okay, Suzanne, worry, anxiety, I got it, right? When I'm living in the past, it's often guilt and shame. I'm looking at something that's happened and I'm feeling guilt or shame. That's kind of how I look at it. All right. But let's talk about blame or judgment. Blame or judgment are like deflectors, if you will. So when you and I are in blame or judgment, the clue is that you're actually deflecting. There's a saying that hurt people hurt other people. When we are in judgment, it's often we're judging something about the other person that we don't want people to know about ourselves. We're judging something about the other person that we are embarrassed about ourselves. We're judging something in the other person that we're really actually quite anxious and fearful that if someone found out, we would be possibly devastated. So the trick is point it out in someone else, talk about it in someone else, so that we're not talking about me, we're talking about someone else, right? So it's your perfect way to hide out in plain sight. However, when we're judging, it's usually the biggest clue to the world that we're in pain. When we're judging, it's the biggest clue to the world that something's up, something's wrong. But when you're in judgment, I want you to ask yourself, what am I hiding? What is it that I don't want someone to know? What is it that I see in that other person that really is something about me that I may not like or I'm embarrassed about? Why is this key? Because remember I said I had all these emotions, but I didn't have language for it. I didn't have the emotional literacy for it. So even though I separated this was the story and this was the event, I still had to go sit with the story and go, what is going on? It was when I was able to look at the pieces and name my emotions and actually talk through them that I was able to actually realize that the story was something I had made up. And truly, it was sitting down with a friend. Now, this is the other cool thing, is in order to do this, oftentimes you can't do this on your own. So I have my warriors that I talk to. So I see Yetta is out there. I see Taria's out there. I see Cindy. Cindy's my girl. We've been doing this forever, right? So when I'm in my head, big in story, my responsibility is to pick up the phone and talk through the story versus the event and really begin to name what's going on, how I'm feeling. And those are the moments I'm able to say, I feel so embarrassed. I feel so ashamed. I feel so this, that, the other. But this is the amazing thing about people who love and care for you. They're able to help you unpack it. And oftentimes, it's not that I am bad. It's that I did something that I wish I didn't. It's not that I am stupid. It's that I did something that I know I could have done better. And what my friends are able, when we get in communication and I'm safe enough to feel vulnerable, they help me unpack the story. And what they actually do is they reality check the story. And usually when they reality check the story, we end up laughing because I've totally embellished, I've stretched it, I've made it big, and they're able to help me bring it back to reality. And they're going to say, this is what happened, this is what you made up, but this is really what you are required to address. And then I'm able to get into action. And so why we get stuck is we get stuck in the energy of the emotions. Emotions just they set stuff off in us, and when we're in that emotional state, we're actually out of balance, we're out of alignment. And really what we're attempting to do is what we want actually is to recreate alignment. But in order to recreate alignment, we are required to unpack this thing, use that literacy to name stuff and put it where it belongs. So I'm able to say the story that I'm telling myself about me is I'm stupid, I'm bad, I'm whatever it is. And my friends will go, well, that's not true. And they'll say, so maybe you did something that you wish you'd done something different. Maybe, and they will reality check it. And by reality checking, they're separating story from facts. And then I'm able to act. But the key thing is this thing called emotional literacy. And this is why mindset mastery for me is one of my favorite pieces of work to do. Because unfortunately, when we go through our education, they don't look at how we think. They don't look at our emotional literacy. In other words, they don't give us the tools and skills to name the feelings that we're experiencing. They stick solely in let's give you some more information and let's give you some more processes. And while processes and information are great, this is the disconnect. And this was the disconnect for me. I kind of knew what to do. What was standing in the way was the emotions that were having me standing in my way. It wasn't that I couldn't find the knowledge, I couldn't find the information. It actually even wasn't that I couldn't figure it out. It was that my emotions were in the way. It was like this wall preventing me from taking action. See, we aren't taught to deal with that. And when we're not taught to deal with it, we get stuck like glue. It's like the most immobilizing thing. So the healthy thing is for us to find places and spaces where we can risk being vulnerable. Yes, that's the word. Risk being vulnerable and unpacking our truth. And I'm not saying the truth as in reality. I'm saying our truth, the truth I made up, the perception. And unpacking it with people we trust and care about us, who are one, going to help us separate the pieces, but two, are going to hold us accountable to truth. So if I've done something I shouldn't have, they're going to hold me accountable to going and cleaning it up. If I have been not responsible in my behaviors, they're going to help me make a plan that has me become responsible. It is that space where I can develop a plan based in truth, not built in emotion. So remember I said acceptance is to give up shaming, blaming, judging, guilting, all that sort of stuff. And oftentimes we need someone to help us break apart the pieces and say, okay, let's put those over here and actually work through and put titles and names to it and talk it through so we can actually get to the real stuff, which is the facts and the data, the real things. Now, this is what magically happens when we're able to do this. The minute I can dissipate the emotion, and for Suzanne, I'll be candid, it's a cry. It's like a 5-year-old baby cry. bawling, like not pretty. I've got to release the emotion. Once I've released the emotion, it's almost like a cloud has lifted and clarity happens. And now I'm in acceptance. And acceptance is like this clean canvas where only the facts are. And what becomes available in that moment is I am now able to create, and I am now able to take responsibility for solutions. Every single person listening can do this. Every one of us has the capacity to do this. This is what I want to leave you with. Emotions aren't a bad thing. It's a way of our minds and our bodies telling us that we're out of balance, we're out of alignment, something's off. Unfortunately, society has almost made them bad things. And we're told, don't show those emotions. Don't cry. Don't do all these things. So don't talk about them. So they're treated like negative things. Unless you're happy, joyful, all those things. The negative emotions, they're treated like they're bad things. They're not bad things. They're your mind and your body saying something's off. You're out of alignment. You need to recalibrate. There's something you need to release. This is what I know. We all think that conflict resolution is about resolving something with another person. I will say to you, in my experience, conflict resolution is not about that. Conflict resolution is about you and I recreating this thing called alignment, where we are able to show up in the world as who we're committed to being. That's what conflict resolution is. Conflict resolution is all about me. It's all about you. It's about you recreating that place where you feel empowered to move, empowered to communicate, empowered to be in the world and show up the way you like to see. Conflict resolution realigns you. So when you look in the mirror, you say, I like her. I like her. That's why this is important. So, emotional mastery is about putting language to behaviors that indicate to us when we're in shame, when we're in blame, when we're guilting people, when we're guilting ourselves, when we're in worry. It's all those things. So we can talk about it clearly and we can actually let it go. Because events come and go. They're like this, right? Events come and go. What happens is we hold on to the emotion. It's time to let them, to release them. It's time to recreate that alignment so that you feel empowered. All right, let me look at takeaways and any questions. So let me see what everyone is saying. All right, let me go up here. Yes, Lester, I know you're in that beautiful sunny Arizona, one of my favorite cities. Okay. Yes, Taria, it is a story that we totally created. And I know you and I were talking earlier, and we are like master storytellers, right? It's said that human beings are meaning making machines. How we feel in control is we are required, our mind needs to put meaning to stuff. But sometimes those meanings are the exact thing that gets us stuck. Great comment, Taria. Lester, we tell ourselves excuses, lies, and alibis. I don't know what that word is. The bad part is we believe them, and truth comes out. Oh my gosh, could you just be more powerful there, Lester? It is so true. How many of you have told yourself a story often enough that now it's your new reality? It's your truth, right? That's what we need to check out. If you've ever listened to, our one of our trainings, when we talk about magnetize and monetize the stage, I tell the story about the little girl who got embarrassed in school. Teacher picked on me, and I decided that I was never going to speak again in a classroom or in front of a room. That became my reality. Now, it wasn't that it wasn't that I realized I chose not to. I was like, I can't do it. Do you know, see how I've altered my reality? I've created a story around a situation, and now it is real. I can't do that. And what was crazy was every time I was asked to speak, Suzanne Hart, grown woman, wouldn't show up. Little Suzanne, Susie, as my mom called me, would show up. I would go back to that place because I hadn't cleared it. That's what we're talking about. Great share, Lester. I love it. Let's see, what else do we have? I love it. Yeah, fun and games. Yeah, it is fun and games. Emotions are, I love the actually saying that emotions are fun and games. And I think it is really learning to play this game called life and accepting that emotions are just part of the process. And we have to develop this emotional literacy so we can empower ourselves. I loved Tria saying, that's a great ask. What do I do when I experience these certain emotions? Every one of us needs to do this. What is your behavior when you're in shame? What is your language when you're in shame? What is your language when you're in blame? What is your language when you're in guilt? Right? What do you say and what do you do? Start looking for the clues. As soon as you'll start to pick it up and you'll be like, oh, I know what's going on. I need to take some moment and actually process this, talk it through. Oh, Yetta says, when I first started to do this, I kept a list with me so I could figure out which emotions I was actually feeling. Because otherwise, I would simply think I was fine. Oh, Yetta, we can shake hands. If I didn't like what was happening, I would simply say that I did the best I could do and deny I even had an emotion around it. Girl, that's a post. That's truth to power. That was me. Now, Yetta, I don't know about you, but busy was my life. Busy stole my life because rather than feel, I just decided, let me just get busy. Busy doing so I wouldn't have to feel. How many of you are doers so that you can avoid dealing and feeling? That was Suzanne. True, yeah, it's so true. We immediately start to take on those things as our identity. It repeatedly runs in my head, so I start believing that's who I am. This is so powerful. Oh my goodness, this is so good. What Tria is saying, and one of the things I tell people is be very careful what I am. Because as soon as we begin to I am, we're getting into who we believe ourselves to be in the world. And there's a huge distinction between what I do in the moment and who I am. And so for me, when I catch myself I aming, that's what I call it, I aming, and it's not empowering, I have to look at it right away. And I'm required to switch it. Right? So be very careful what I am and be even more attentive to what your children I am. Because that's a big clue of how they're feeling about themselves. So have zero tolerance about words like I am stupid. No, honey, you're not stupid. You might have done something that you didn't like, or you might be struggling with something, but you have everything within you to figure it out. Really pay attention to what I am. Unless it's I am fabulous, I am special, I am unique, I am brilliant. Those are the things we want to I am, right? Be careful of the stories you tell yourself. One of the things I always ask myself is, Suzanne, is this story empowering you and moving you forward? Is this story moving you in the direction that you want to go? If it's not, stop, process it, and rewrite it. That's the power of emotional mastery. I love it, Cindy. I am so powerful. All right. So this is what I want to leave you guys with. This week, pay close attention to what you speak into the world. Look at how your language is a clue to your emotional state. Look at the stories you're telling yourself and ask yourself, are they moving me forward? All right. That's what I want to leave you with. So I see we have a question. What if you're struggling, feeling, and are unsure where to start? Great question. And I don't know who the Facebook user is. If you could put your name in the comment section, that would be awesome. So this is a piece. Most of us struggle with feelings. That was what was going on for me. The reason the reason we're doing this is because certain emotions have certain actions and language attached to it. So what I want you to do is to start looking at the behaviors and language. So, clue, if you're I aming something, trust that you're more than likely in shame. If you're saying, I did something that was so bad, I did something that I feel so guilty about, I feel so bad about, you're in guilt. And chances are you're more than likely going to have to go clean something up with somebody in your world. If you find yourself talking about other people, judging other people, or blaming other people, you're hiding from something more than likely. And when we're hiding and we don't want something to be found out, it's leading back to shame. It's leading back to fear of being found out. So part of it is not just to try, if you don't know the feeling, and many of us don't, begin to examine your behaviors and connect them. And start with that. I think the other thing is to find someone or somewhere where you can begin to be vulnerable. Because one of the reasons we don't touch our feelings, one of the reasons we don't go there is because we're not sure how the world's going to receive it. We're not sure how the people around us are going to receive it. So I'm not saying go do this with anybody. I'm saying do this with someone who's earned your trust. And what that means is over time, they have demonstrated that they will hold you whole and complete, that they have demonstrated that you are someone that they respect and honor, and they have your best interest at heart. Sit down with that person and say, this is what's going on, and I'm trying to work through my feelings. Oftentimes when we get in communication and we start looking at our patterns and behaviors, we begin to name the feelings. That's what I would recommend for you. Great question and a courageous question. So thank you very much. And if you would like to spend a few minutes with me and talk through that process, I would be more than happy to. So we'll put a link in the comments section that allows you to just reach out and set some time to sit down and chat with me. I'd be more than happy to do that. This is one of the reasons we do this. Let me see what's on the screen. So let's talk about what's next. So I'm going to recommend that if this isn't excited for you, or it touches you, or it really is something that you're saying, okay, I need to deal with this, there's two suggestions I have. In the description for this live, you'll see that we have our Mindset Mastery mini course, right? And the Mindset Mastery mini course is an introduction to Mindset Mastery. It'll allow you to look at how your thoughts activate your emotions, how those emotions really create what you say to yourself and what you say to others, and how that determines your action or inaction and your coping mechanisms and what you habitually do. You'll begin to go on a journey of unpacking that. The other thing you can do is check in with me, set some time, and let's talk through what's going on for you. Because the worst thing for any of us is to be stuck in this place where there's emotions and we don't know what to do with them. They're just debilitating. So that's my gift for you today. So thank you for joining us. This was Unstoppable Mindset. My name is Suzanne Hart. My commitment is to each week bring you some form of breakthrough strategy that helps you reset your thinking. Because I have a desire for each and every one of us to feel and be unstoppable. Because I know if you're here, you're a super achiever and you're up to big things. And big things often are accompanied by big breakdowns. But when we rise and become more, magic happens. So I will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be here with my girl, Taria Hodge. We're going to continue this conversation, and we're really going to look at what happens when you're starting to shame, blame, judge, and not treat people well. What is really going on behind that? All right. As we part, please remember, know you're brilliant, know you're special. And the reason we do this work is because the world is waiting for your unique gifts. Please comment, please share. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe and like, and we will see you back here next week. Take care and many blessings.